Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1998 Represent. On this episode, we're taking a look at Armageddon, one of the probably the biggest film of 1998, I think, as far as just like box office gross goes. I watched this a couple nights ago. It's on HBO Max or Max, whatever we're calling it now, and it still is an amazingly awesome movie. It definitely is a very 90s movie. It's action packed, it's fast paced. It's like 2.5 hours long. I think the editing is really fast paced, so I think this would probably be like a closer to 3 hour long movie if it were being made today. It's got an amazing ensemble cast. It's just expertly directed by Michael Bay. This is kind of like the kind of film that he is just known for making. I think this might be like my second favorite Michael Bay movie. I think I still put The Rock kind of above this, but Armageddon is just incredibly fun. It's awesome. I remember seeing it on opening day when it came out back in '98, and loved it then. Still loved it now. I haven't watched it in a really long time. I think I've maybe seen the movie twice before. Once when it came out in theaters, and then probably like on like HBO or something some years later, and then just most recently a couple of days ago. Got some notes here to go over about the movie. Let me just pull it up here. Alright, so Armageddon, released July 1st, 1998. I think that was like the middle of the week. I think I checked, I think it was like a Wednesday or something, and I remember going to see it like that afternoon, like late afternoon, like maybe like 4 o'clock. It was a matinee, like maybe like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and had a blast with it. It was like a nice, basically a perfect summer movie. Just incredibly fun. The action is awesome. Some quick notes about it. It cost $140 million to make the movie, and then ended up grossing $553.7 million. And I believe that was the highest grossing movie of that year. So basically made like a ton of money. You've got a great ensemble cast here. Just off the top of my head, you have, like, I could probably go through the whole list, but you have Bruce Willis, you have Ben Affleck. This is the second Ben Affleck movie I think I remember ever seeing. The first one I saw maybe a couple months earlier was Good Will Hunting. I remember seeing that on like a flight or something. But so yeah, you got Bruce Willis, you got Ben Affleck, you got Liv Tyler, Billy Bob Thornton, Steve Buscemi, Owen Wilson, Michael Clark Duncan. It's not, I'm not saying William Hurt. It's not William Hurt, but like just a ton of other great actors. Keith David is in this. Keith David was also in There's Something About Mary. He played Mary's father. I think this movie came out first. As for I would have to go back and look at the release dates for. Actually, I have the notes for Something About Mary right here. Let's see, page 6 in my notebook here. So yeah, this is July 1st, and There's Something About Mary was. Let's see, that was episode 5. July 15th. So like literally like close to 2 weeks later, this comes out, and then 2 weeks after this, There's Something About Mary comes out. Keith David's in both of those movies, and both of those movies ended up being some of the highest grossing movies of that year. Like I said, the film is super fast paced. You have this weird, I say weird now, but it's narrated by Charlton Heston. It's about like the asteroid coming in and basically destroying, or decimating the dinosaurs, and it happened once and it'll happen again. It's kind of like it's so 90s that like it just feels like Charlton Heston narrating it is like kind of perfect. Let's see, like I said, the editing is so fast. Like you basically go from just that quick narration to like New York City. You have asteroids that are basically just are smaller, like meteorites, just hitting, destroying stuff, blowing up buildings or like parts of buildings, blowing up like cars, sending stuff flying. And then you get NASA on the line about it, and they're like, oh, okay, like this is like what's going on. And then they basically will say like, hey, the best way to do this is to get these oil drillers to go to it, drill a hole in it, and drop a bomb inside. That's basically the concept of the movie. Is there's a huge asteroid that's going to impact Earth, basically end of the world kind of stuff, And the only way to stop it, or the best way to stop it, is to send Bruce Willis and his team of oil drillers up into space, land on the asteroid, drill, and basically place atomic, like a nuclear bomb inside of it, blowing it up, and hoping that basically the asteroid, or the gigantic asteroid, splits off into like two parts like that, and basically one goes to the left, one goes to the right, and misses Earth entirely. That's the concept of the movie. And then the scene where they introduce Bruce Willis's character is really great because he's like an oil rig worker, or he runs the rig, I guess, and he is hitting golf balls off of this oil rig at some environmentalist, and that's done to ZZ Top's LaGrange. It's a great introduction to the character. Like I said, the ensemble cast in this, especially like the team of people that are working, particularly with that are like going on the mission, it's an amazing cast. If you just look at the list on paper, it's just like, it's kind of crazy that they're all in this movie together. So another thing, speaking of music, the soundtrack to this movie is also one of the best soundtracks ever made, possibly. But I have the soundtrack right here. Don't have the CD on me. The CD is actually in my CD wallet at my job. It's in my office. But this soundtrack was, the big song off of this is Aerosmith's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. And I remember as soon as this movie came out, that song was just all over the radio, all over MTV. It was just everywhere. But I did a video, I'll put a link in the description to it, about just movie soundtracks and how they don't really make movie soundtracks like they do it like this anymore. So I'll leave a link in the description to that. But let's just take a look at this track list here for the soundtrack. We've got Aerosmith's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Kind of already talked about that. We have Remember Me by Journey. You have another Aerosmith song. You have What Kind of Love Are You On? You have LaGrange by ZZ Top. It's a great song. You have Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band with Roll Me Away. Sean Colvin, When the Rainbow Comes. Aerosmith again with Sweet Emotion. You got Bon Jovi with Mr. Big Time. Another Aerosmith track with Come Together. You have Patti Smith, Wish I Were You. Our Lady Peace with Starseed. Chantel Krevi, I'm probably going to mispronounce this. Kreviazuk? Kreviazuk. Kreviazuk, I'm not really sure. But that's Leaving on a Jet Plane. That's a great scene of the movie, too, where they're all kind of singing along to it. You have the theme for Armageddon, which is composed and performed by Trevor Rabin. And then you have the Animal Crackers dialogue with Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck. That's a super weird scene. It's like I don't know. It's like the one thing about the movie I kind of don't like. That scene is just super cringy. But the soundtrack is an amazing soundtrack. One of kind of the decades, I would say, one of the best soundtracks of the 90s for sure. And again, I have the CD, but it's in my like little CD wallet at my job. But again, the highest grossing movie of 1998. This is the third Michael Bay movie. I believe it was Bad Boys, The Rock, and then this. Like, that's like just a hell of a run. Like, Bad Boys is awesome. Came out in 95, I think. Then you have The Rock, probably my favorite Michael Bay movie, I would say. And then you have this. And then I think you kind of start going downhill a little bit. Like Pearl Harbor, not amazing. Bad Boys 2 is still fun, but not as good as the original. And then you kind of get into like some of the other stuff. Like I haven't seen The Island. I think that's what it is. I haven't seen that. But then you kind of get into the Transformers stuff. Like the first Transformers was just okay. The second one was just terrible. I absolutely hated the second Transformers. The third one was a little bit better, and then I never saw Age of Extinction? I never saw that one, or The Last Night. So I guess I've seen the first three Michael Bay Transformers, and not the more recent ones with Mark Wahlberg. I heard they were just like really bad though. But that's just a quick wrap up of the movie. We're going to kind of just discuss like basically what happens here. So again, big asteroid coming to Earth. Plan is to send them these oil drillers to help blow it up. You get a really cool kind of like training sequence where they're all being like recruited to be astronauts. You just have this great cast. You have like a really cool line from, I think it's like Owen Wilson. I forget who else is. It might be Owen Wilson and Ben Affleck, and I forget who the other is. But they're kind of like it's like a Star Wars joke. They're like, that means like that, like I'm Han Solo, you're Chewbacca, and they're like, nah man, I'll be Han Solo, you be Chewbacca, or whatever the line was. It's a great line there. And then you basically just have them doing all this training. You have the kind of shots that Michael Bay is really well known for, and they work amazingly well here. You have like a subplot where there is one of the oil drillers like goes to see his kid who he's not supposed to be seeing, and then the kid's mom basically says, "Oh, he's just a salesman." And then later in the movie, like as they're getting ready to go up, you actually see the kid actually sees the dad on TV, and like his like I don't his estranged wife, don't know like what their actual marital situation is in the movie, but she sees him and he's like, "Oh, that's not a salesman, that's your dad," or whatever it is. Really cool scene. There's like a great speech by like the president, like whoever, I forget who played the president in this, but a great scene where it's just a thing that like a great speech, and it's like the way it's intercut with the various scenes that Michael Bay had filmed, it just worked amazingly well. But yeah, basically there's a training montage. They eventually all go into space on two different shuttles. I think it's like Freedom and Independence, I think, are the two. And so they split the teams up, and basically they're like, the thing was to fly up to the space station, refuel, slingshot around the moon, land on the moon, and then they would have two drilling teams. And basically it was like whatever team gets done first, like it was just like they had to, just in case like one of them couldn't get it done or whatever it was. But basically, as soon as you get to space, everything that can go wrong does go wrong. They get to the space station and they pick up Peter Stormare, who's just kind of like a comic relief character in this movie, but really good in this movie. They're refueling, and there's like a fuel leak, and it basically causes a huge fire at the station. And then they like basically blows up the station. They eventually get back to the shuttles, and they then do the whole slingshot around the moon thing and come up behind the asteroid. One of the shuttles gets shredded with like just cosmic debris, like asteroid, like meteorite particles and stuff like that. That shuttle crashes onto the asteroid. Both shuttles land not where they're supposed to land. And Steve Buscemi's character mentioned something about, well, we overshot our like landing thing by like 26 miles. We're now on this part of the asteroid. I think they were calling it like iron, like ferrite or something. And he's like, basically, it's going to make it hard to drill through because it's basically like drilling through metal at that point. So basically, the space station gets blown up. They lose one shuttle. They lose a few of the characters as well. I think like Owen Wilson's character doesn't survive the crash thing, and a couple other characters get killed throughout the rest of the movie. But not only that, now they have a harder time drilling because of this iron composite that's in the asteroid. So they start drilling, and then they lose a transmission. They break a bunch of parts, and then the general, who's played by Keith David, I think, is saying like, we're going to go to like Protocol 2 or whatever it was, which was basically an emergency protocol to just basically straight up just detonate the nuclear bomb then and there and hope that it all goes well. That causes a standoff between, William Finch. I'm probably not going to pronounce his name correctly. William Fichtner, I think. He's in the movie. He's like one of the NASA pilots, and he is trying to carry out this plan about this Protocol 2 to blow up the nuke. And then Billy Bob Thornton's character back on Earth is like basically like saying like they deactivated the bomb temporarily, and then it comes back online. They eventually decide to actually do the drilling because there's a whole standoff between Bruce Willis and William Fichtner's character, and basically it's just like the stakes just keep going higher and higher and higher. Now this bomb is live. It's sticking down, and they eventually agree to disarm it and then drill. And then Ben Affleck's character, eventually him and I think Michael Clark Duncan and I forget who else was in Ben Affleck's group, because it was like Steve Buscemi was already on the asteroid with Bruce Willis and a few other characters, and then they eventually like all finally like come back together to drill, and then of course more stuff goes wrong. One of the drill bits, like they get down to where they need to get. They get down to the 800 feet that they need to be able to put the nuclear thing in there. And then one of the drill pieces breaks off, so we had to send Ben Affleck down there to cut it out. And the clock is ticking on this thing, because basically if they detonate the nuclear bomb too late, the pieces won't separate, like get far enough away in time that they'll hit they'll still hit the planet. But so they cut that out, and then they're getting ready to detonate the thing, and now the remote detonator doesn't work. So somebody has to stay behind and actually manually detonate the bomb. They draw straws. Ben Affleck loses, and basically he's the one that's going to be stuck there, and he's basically like going out with Liv Tyler's character, or has proposed to her at this point. And then in one of the more emotional parts of the movie, Bruce Willis basically says to Ben Affleck, he's like, "Hey, give this to," I forget what Billy Bob Thornton's character was. It was like his mission patch. He tore it off and gave it to him because Billy Bob Thornton was like, "Hey, I've always wanted to like be like in on these missions, but you know, like I can't go up for some reason." So he gives this patch to Ben Affleck to give to Billy Bob Thornton's character. And then basically what happens is Bruce Willis takes Ben Affleck's place by being like, "Hey, like I think Grace is the character played by Liv Tyler. Grace needs you. I'm staying here to detonate this bomb." There's like a huge emotional scene between all of them, but particularly Liv Tyler and Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis eventually detonates the bomb. You basically have this sequence where his life actually essentially flashes before his eyes before it blows up. It blows up and the pieces go by and the planet is saved. They all come back to Earth for like a hero's welcome, and it's really, really cool. It's just a ton of fun. Like the movie is, like I said earlier, it's just a blast. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend watching it, but it's definitely like a perfect summer movie. It's the kind of movie that Michael Bay does. Like Michael Bay has made some really good movies. He's made some that aren't so great, but this one here is, I think, one of his best. It's awesome. I would highly recommend checking it out. And I think that's going to do it for this video. This is one of the bigger movies that I was looking forward to covering on this series. So we've got this one out of the way. We have more coming up. I think the next video we'll be doing for a video game. Haven't decided what that's going to be yet. But 1998 has a lot of great video games, so there'll definitely be more great video games coming up with this. More movies, more music as well, like we've been doing. But that's going to do it for this this episode. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. See ya.